Okay, we're going to talk about how we put mint grips on a golf club. We use a lot of mints here at ABS.
These, kind of an interesting story on these grips. I had a neighbor who died 7 or 8 years ago named Larry Hollers. Larry owned Gibbs Rubber and Plastic as a partnership. He used to make the Scotty grips, and through various difficulties he left and then started making the grips for Danny Edwards. And through difficulties ended up abandoning that project, using the same compound that was in the Scotties and the early Danny Edwards grip to make the mint grip. These are made in Benicia. I think they're excellent grips, some of the best made. Larry lived across the street from me, and I heard one day...
So he was right over there
truck is.
in that house, right over there. This is where Larry lived.
One day I heard a commotion over there, a compressor running, so I went over to visit with him because he was a good neighbor and asked him what he was doing, and he told me he was blowing grips on. And I said, I didn't know you could do that. And he said, yeah, here's how. There's a small alignment mark, or you can use the silk screen. Some people like it on top, some like it under. For these alignment marks, I put them up. I've got the club secured in the vise. This is old tape, and surprisingly, you don't really need sticky tape. Sometimes all you need is a little bit of masking tape. So you can certainly use sticky tape.
So with the mints, you don't need the sticky tape and the gasoline like we
Truthfully,
used to do.
most grips you don't need it. The Golf Prides and a lot of the others you don't. Winds are the exception. You've got to use solvent with winds, and if any of you buy them, you're foolish in my personal opinion, because they don't last longer than 6 months.
We're not representing Win Golf Company.
No, not at
today.
all. I mean, they're great grips. People love them, but they just don't last. You may or may not want to use that in your video.
No, it's okay. We're all about the truth.
All right, this is a critical step. I start underneath, and I can usually lift the grip over the end. I've got about 1/4 inch there. Failing the ability to lift it on some of the other grips like Golf Prides, sometimes I use a little assist. It's just a little dental tool to help me get the lip over. So I might start it and use that to lift the lip over. All right, at this stage, I'm working on a little bit if I can. I'm going to take my air hose from my handy dandy compressor.
And what kind of tip do we have in there?
This is a standard tip that you buy with the kits at Harbor Freight. This is one of the things from Harbor Freight that does work well.
Okay, so
these just screw in and out, and they're different kinds.
A rare plug for Harbor
Freight, yeah. They do have a rubber tip that works real well too, because it gives you a good seal, especially for taking grips off. But I find this works pretty well. I don't go straight in. I go at an angle so I can modulate the flow of air. I'm holding the grip here. I'm going to gradually introduce a little air. You can see what's happening?
Take it right on down.
Hold it, make sure it seats and doesn't blow back on you. That grip's not going to go anywhere.
That is solid, huh? Yep, sure is.
If it did move a little, just use a little extra masking tape, maybe a little bit of a wrap. I find sometimes mints are a little big under this end, depending on the shaft. Sometimes I'll put 1 wrap of masking tape around the bottom 2 inches. If you want to use sticky tape, there's no problem. You feel free to do it.
Could you blow them on with the sticky tape as well?
You could, but if you're going to use sticky tape, I would use solvent. Go ahead and put them on. The reason I don't do that is that
what solvent do you like to use?
I like to use mineral spirits.
Mineral spirits?
That is a real mineral spirit. It's not the VOC compliant California mineral spirits. This came out of Reno.
Okay. Well,
I brought it back with me when I go up there.
Good thing there's no customs over there at the border.
Nope, but it's the real deal. You can also, if you have access to a military base, you can usually get it on military bases.
Yep.
I get it at Travis also.
Well, I used a lot of mineral spirits on these golf clubs. Yeah.
Now, one of the reasons we like to do grips this way is that if we need to reset a weight, we have something come loose, we want to add some weight, it's pretty easy to take them off. If I'm not sure how long it's been on, I'll use a sleeve. That's an old vacuum tube. You can use the plastic tubes that you put in golf bags. If you get an old golf bag, you may want to save that. This is a bigger one that I use for jumbo grips. That's all the reason I have that one. This will handle mid-size and regular. I slide it over just to protect it from blowing up. I introduce again a little bit at an angle. Maybe I have to go straight on with this. A little air.
And it comes right off.
Comes right off.
There's our air compressor coming up. Okay, now if we go the solvent route.
If you decide to use solvent, you've installed your tape. For this purpose, I'm just using the old tape
Right.
to show you how
put
to work
extra
it.
pieces of tape. Some people like them built up a little
I
bit.
hold my finger over the end of the grip on the weep hole. I squirt some solvent in. You don't need a whole lot unless it's a win, and a win you need more than not enough. Wins are difficult. You really need some air or you're going to get them stuck.
Don't use wind grips. Okay.
Shake. No, you can use them. There's nothing wrong with winds other than they don't last.
They don't last.
And they're very hard to install, especially the Drytex. They're not constructed the same. I pour that over the grip. What's left in there goes over the end of the tape to soften it up. I line up my alignment mark.
And then it's nice and slippery and
Nice and
slide
slippery.
it on.
Usually will go right on. If I'm sensing a little resistance, I use a little. Now, usually when you have new tape, it'll slide right on completely. This one had old tape, so it didn't slide. That's why I used a little air. I can't stress how good air is.
It's sure handy to have that air compressor.
Here's another small thing you can do. These mints get a little dusty. Just put a little bit of mineral spirits on it and wipe them down. Won't hurt them. And you're ready to go.
All right, that's how you do it. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about these vintage leather grips. And on this one, what do we got? What kind of golf club do we have here? Old
This
Wilson?
is an old Wilson Dynapowered
got the-
prior to '62.
It's got the grip reminder, which are, I think those are illegal now. But they
The
weren't then.
grip's in good shape.
I think they should be grandfathered into the game. All right, if you got one of those old clubs with a grip reminder,
They tend to get a little dark down here and sometimes up in here. This grip's in pretty good shape. What we're going to do is we're going to clean it.
okay?
So I'm going to go over to the sink
All right,
and I'm going to wash it. I'm going to use some Gojo orange. It'll help cut through the grime and the dirt and the oil that's on that grip.
okay. I'll see you over at the sink. Okay, so what do you got on here?
This is called Gojo orange. It's just a hand cleaner. You can buy fast orange or different products that are citric acid based with a little pumice. And you can see the dirt coming off of there.
Right.
Look at my hand. That's all
Grime.
oil, grime, dirt from playing. I might have to do this twice. But I stay with it, and usually I work at the sink and I can wash it off with a little fresh water, but I brought a rag over with some water on it and we'll just clean it off that way. All right, at this stage I can evaluate what I've done and I can see that I've got a little bit of dirt left down in here. So I may start the process over. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go rinse it good and then I'm going to come back with a little more Gojo and we're going to do a little bit more on it and then we'll finish up.
Okay. Okay, so you just washed that off in the sink.
I cleaned it up a little. You can see a lot of that's come off. There's still quite a bit down in here where the right hand was. So we're just going to start a little Gojo.
And just do that again one more
Do
time.
it again. And sometimes you get most of it, sometimes you don't, but you're going to get a lot of it. I've been known to use a little steel wool or one of those nylon scrubbies. See, look at the dirt in there. You could certainly take a little steel wool and see if that would get some of it off. There's a good chance you'll get into the old die, especially on the red grips, but that's all right.
So you work that in with a little steel wool.
What I'm doing is using the steel wool to cut through the grime.
Get through it. Let's see. Okay, well it's looking pretty good.
You might want to do it one more time, but you can cause the old dyes to come out, so you want to be a little bit careful how far you go with this. There are other products. There's saddle soap, there's Lexol leather cleaner. There are different things you can use to help you clean the grip depending on how dirty it is. This grip was pretty dirty, so I just said to heck with it and cut through it with some Gojo. But there's other ways to condition. This is just one way I use.
All right. So then what do we do after that?
Typically I'll let it dry just a little.
And then do you put any sort of leather conditioner or any other?
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
I've tried Lexol and it works okay for a while, but I've gone back to the old baseball glove treatment with neat's foot oil. That's the boiled hooves and lower leg bones of cattle. Sounds kind of gross, but it's pretty inoffensive, really.
Well, we just want it to work.
Yep, it doesn't particularly smell. It's kind of just a light, oily smell. I put a little on my hand. I rub it into the grip.
This is probably what Ted Williams used, right?
Very likely. It was notorious for being used on baseball gloves. This will actually also remove a little bit of the dirt sometimes. Now, having said that, it gets a little tacky, so it will attract dirt. So you may have to use light soap and water occasionally and then reapply the neat's foot every 2 or 3 rounds. A lot of times what I'll do at this stage, just to let this soak in, is I will put a plastic bag over this, wrap it up tight, and just kind of let it stew and cure. Oh, crap.
So you might wrap up a grip that's really real dirty and needs.
Well, this just lets this doesn't let the oil volatilize. It just kind of lets it work in there and stay in. If I ever do one of yours and send it to you, it'll probably have plastic around it. And just let that sit for a day or two after the initial treatment, and it'll be nice and tacky when you take it off.
So
it's not an absolutely mandatory step, but it's nice to do.
Does it soften up the leather a little bit?
It does soften it, makes it tackier.
It a little bit tackier.
Yeah, it really works nicely.
And that's this stuff right here. This neat's foot oil.